everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today I want to talk about ending cycles of family pain and trauma. This is honestly something that I've been aware of and working through since I was 4 years old. That's no joke. I have memories from being 4 years old and observing some of the grown-ups in my life at the time and being very confused by their behavior and thinking I didn't want to be like that when I grew up. I think the main point around ending cycles of family hurt and trauma and pain and poverty in some cases is understanding ourselves better, which again is something I've been interested in my whole life and something I've been working on. When we understand ourselves better, we can find the ways in which our insecurities affect other people in ways we never realized. And then we can kind of understand where those insecurities come from. And we often find that they come from our early childhood experiences. So what we have happening is people having experiences in early childhood that cause them to have certain insecurities throughout their whole lives. And then they have children, and again those insecurities affect the children who get insecurities from that, who have experiences, and it just keeps going on and on. And it becomes this big cosmic snowball until it hits one generation where somebody wakes up and goes, what the hell is going on here? For me, I knew from a very early age that I never wanted to have children. So I'm not going to be continuing any of the pain or trauma in my family in that manner. However, it does sort of all come and end up on your shoulders when you awaken to your level of consciousness. So there's a couple of things I'd recommend, first off, for anyone trying to end family pain and trauma and its effect on their life. Two things. I would say look into processing your childhood and also look for patterns, both in the lives of your parents and in yourself. And I know for me, I have had patterns in my life that are just so shockingly similar, one after the other, that occurred throughout my entire life. And I look at my mother's life and there were patterns that she had that occurred exactly the same, one after the other, in her life. And they all correspond and they all fit together like pieces of a puzzle, just perfectly. This brings us to the idea of traumatic reenactment. We recreate in our lives over and over and over again the same situations that mirror the way in which we've been wounded the very most. And I know there are so many people who can identify with this, who say, and for most people it comes up in relationships, because a lot of times we're so afraid with what's in our heart that we need someone else to show it to us. So we get into these relationships and we find that we have the same relationship over and over and over again. Maybe it's with a close friend, someone who's saying, I have these friends that always end up betraying me, or I'm in a relationship and it always ends up this happening over and over again. The pattern in my life was that I was always getting into a very close friendship or relationship with somebody who would, in my mind, choose some other person or group of people over me. And as I got into therapy, I had to look back to some of the most painful traumas of my childhood. And my mother was a single parent, and I was put into daycare at an early age. She had to work. And then she had my middle brother when I was 4 years old. So that meant around the time I was 3 years old, she was dating my brother's dad. And it's so strange that it was so long ago and that I still remember. I was 3 years old, I was so small, and I still remember that he would give me dirty looks, and he didn't like me, He didn't like kids. And I knew he was bad. As a grown-up and an adult, you know, I understand that no one's bad. The way of the miracle worker, according to Marianne Williamson, is to see all behavior as either love or a lack of love. So I understand that now, but as a child, I saw this as a bad man. And my mother would spend time with him and try to get rid of me. So I remember being brought to parties and sitting in a corner, tired and grouchy and lonely, while my mom like went and partied with all these people who were so impressive to her. And I remember my mom and her friend going to visit this guy and them leaving me in the car and telling me they were going to come right back, and sitting in the car by myself waiting for them to come out, and just being bored and scared, and just that feeling of your primary caretaker who you have a survival attachment to at that young of an age. Your parents' attention and approval is vital to your survival, and you know that as a child. And so things like that set your nervous system up in a very unhealthy way. They cause stress and trauma. I took that and recreated throughout my life opportunities where I would have the chance to win mommy back from the bad guys. So I recreated this situation for myself over and over and over again throughout my entire life, including up to the present day, trying. And that's what traumatic reenactment is about. Traumatic reenactment is a good thing because it shows that you're trying to heal this. You're trying to solve that problem. But the thing is that it's never going to work out. Because in order to recreate that trauma, you choose people who have similar insecurities. So what made my mother choose to give attention and priority to a man over her own daughter was her insecurity and her own trauma, which was, if I can make daddy love me, I can get that love and connection that I want so badly. And of course her dad happened to be, from the stories I've heard, an alcoholic. So for her, it would be trying to seek love and connection from distant alcoholic men who would never see her for who she was. And I think you can see how that's a losing game. And for me, the people that I would choose to recreate my mommy trauma with were people who would be just like her. I would always choose people who had a survival attachment to the approval or the inclusion of others, no matter what that meant about their relationship with me. And of course, I took it very personally until I started to make these realizations. Another thing I would look at to help give you some clues are health issues. What health issues run in your family? Because all health issues have an emotional component to them. So in my case, I knew that my mother had a history of heart problems, which is, it doesn't get any more blatant than that as far as the body emotion connection. My mother had quote-unquote heart problems her entire life. Peter Levine describes it as a wheel that's sort of outside your energy field, that's spinning in one direction. And all the traumatic reenactments that you recreate about that trauma wheel add to the wheel, like water spinning a wheel. And the wheel gets faster and faster, and more trauma gets added onto it, and it gets faster and faster. and it becomes a strong presence in your life. So the way to slow down that wheel is, number one, to stop adding water to it. So get that awareness, find those relationships in your life where you're recreating those traumas, and start to just recognize that, bring awareness and consciousness to the situation of what's really happening. And the second thing I would recommend would be to start a way to start spinning that wheel backwards. And it's kind of like pushing against a white water rafting river at the beginning, but then it starts getting easier and easier. And you have to understand that that wheel and that set of circumstances is started in your nervous system. So we affect our nervous system by feeling either stress, anxiety, and fear, which usually those situations cause, or by feeling safe, happy, calm, and open to the universe and to God. So one thing you can do is address the feelings of that situation in your body. And this is the kind of cool part, because you get to time travel here. So what you want to do is go back to that situation that first started this wheel in motion from your childhood, and then feel where you feel those emotions. So when I think back to my mother locking me out of the house, or leaving me in a car, or putting me in a corner in order to go dance with some guy who hated me, the feelings that I get in my chest, I feel my chest closing in, I feel my throat closing up, I feel my shoulders coming in. That's where I feel the tension. So you want to feel where you feel it in your body. And the first step, I would say, would be to breathe into those areas. Breathe, physically breathe light into those areas. And then you want to reset that in your nervous system, so you know what that feels like. Okay, try to imagine a healthy alternative opposite to that scenario. Or you can even think of what would have made you feel better in that scenario. That kind of starts to transform that energy. And it sounds really silly at first, but the thing is that those memories and those feelings, because you've recreated them so often in your life, they actually create physical pathways in your brain that are like well-worn paths in the woods, where anytime you're kind of lost or you don't know what's going on, oh, there's that path. Anytime you experience anything, oh, this is somebody choosing to treat me this way, just like happened in my childhood. This is this happening, this is that happening. So what you want to start to do is start to develop different pathways in your brain so that you're not so easily triggered. And this is kind of one good way of doing it, so that your body has a well-worn path of comfort and self-soothing that it can fall into in times of crisis, instead of instantly going, oh, this is where this is going, into a negative path. I hope this was helpful to you in some way. If you think you know anyone who could benefit from it, please feel free to share this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay in touch. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and don't forget to hit the like button below as well. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy.